Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 218, I was very lucky, privileged to have Claude Larson on the podcast. She is a author, educator, presenter. She has been in the game of education for the last 25 years. Hard to believe looking at her. But yeah, we talked about her book, The Power of Choice. We talked about, yes, the changing world of the education system from all of her time being in the system. And we've talked about, yeah, how things can be improved, made better. I've got to say, the conversation we had was a very insightful one. I really enjoyed it. And I look forward to having conversations with her again in the future. But yes, please sit back, enjoy the podcast, enjoy a cup of tea or a coffee, wherever you might be, and yeah, enjoy the show. Thank you very much. Enjoy. Bye bye for now. Peace. Oh. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 218, I am very privileged, happy to have Claude Larson on the
Larson.
last. Frick, I got the first name right and the last name. I was almost there. I was almost there every damn week, every damn time. But yes, on the podcast today, she is a author, educator, presenter. Her book is called, yes, The Power of Choice. How are you today, my lady?
I am doing fantastic. It's a beautiful sunny day here, crisp, very cold, very cold. We're waiting for the impending snowstorm tonight, but yeah, today it's all good. Yeah.
You're in New York. What part of New York are you in?
I'm actually just over the border. I'm in New Jersey. So the closest city to me is New York, and we go there fairly often, of course, at least pre-pandemic. But yeah, I'm about an hour outside of the main city.
Like no, a Newark girl, perhaps.
A New York what?
Newark, a girl, perhaps. Newark.
No, we're not in Newark. No, we're farther west. I actually live in a rural area, which is hard to imagine an hour out of New York City. I'm amongst like trees, woods, forests, bears, deer. Yeah, it's lovely and peaceful and quiet, and I love the city. But I'm always happy to just kind of bring down the vibration and calm down and come home to my nice quiet environment here.
I hear you. I hear you. I can totally understand where you need the peace and quiet and like yeah, relaxing vibes. Seeing as you're a teacher of now I can't believe this, but you are a teacher of 25 years, a veteran, and no less. Like you've gone back salty after salty. Like, yeah, I'm forever calling this summer your last. I will never come back again. What
Right. Yes, I did. I did 25 years in the classroom, and so glad I did it. I love the energy of young people, and I know that not everybody would choose to willingly spend their day with 120 to 150, 13, 14, 15-year olds, but that's what I did for a career. I taught science. Mostly physics and chemistry. So I had to find a way to connect with students because not every kid, this might be a shock to you and your audience, but not every kid is dying to get to my room to learn chemistry on any given day. So yeah, I had to just make other connections and came to the realization pretty early in my career that not every kid that I was going to teach was going to grow up to be a physicist. much to the shock of, everyone around me. I knew that my role was to get them to understand science.
Yes.
But I never got hung up on the whole, like, what if they don't memorize like Newton's laws? Like, gravity's still going to affect them just the same as everybody else. I think they'll be just fine. And so I really spent a lot of time focusing on getting them to have really good habits, like things like meeting deadlines and being on time, being prepared, and work ethic, and positive attitude, cooperation, because they had them in groups working with lab equipment, and safety was a major concern. So that was kind of my focus. And once you stop thinking that every word out of your mouth is what's really important to them, because it isn't, as soon as you figure that out, you have really good relationships with them, and you get to watch them mature, which is really nice, without worrying about assigning a number to it. I know a lot of kids are very, grade conscious. A lot of parents are very grade conscious, like what grade did they get in your class? And that was more their concern. And I was like, well, I don't know. They work really hard, and maybe they're not going to grow up to be a chemist in the basement of some lab wearing a white coat for the rest of their life. And I wouldn't be super concerned about it, because people who are supposed to be there will find their way.
Well, put it this way, as long as you don't have any of those kids saying they're Walter White or Heisenberg, you'll be okay. It's like,
right. I did, it's funny because I did have a few, over the years, right? I've taught thousands of students.
yeah.
And over the years, I had several of them come back and say, like, thank you. What I learned in your class, I used when I went to, AP chemistry, or I used when I went to college, or I chose a science major because I liked what I learned there. And I had some of that, but I also had a few that were, literally became rocket scientists for NASA and worked on those kind of projects. And you knew it when you had the student, because you were like, this one is, just, they understand things. And I would sometimes say to them, well, okay, I'm going to explain this concept, and anybody who doesn't get it, I want you to ask James and he'll explain it, and then James would explain it at an even higher level than what I said. And the kids would look at me and go, that didn't help. Okay, never mind. Let me try. Let me give that another try,
I'm going to slow it down for everyone.
Yeah. Like I was like, he understood it, but he understood even more of it. This was like what he read in his free time. Quite remarkable, but yeah. So
I can imagine you having a conversation with this kid, like going, okay, you make my head hurt. He's like here going, and I've been to college. He's like, I
thought I knew this, but there might be more to it.
Yeah, you know what? I think with regards to the length of time you've been a teacher, like going like all of those thousands of kids coming through your classroom, it must be I always think you guys have a very unique perspective on society and how it's changed, because each sort of like 3 to 5 years, there's like a big shift. And look, with regards to, let's just say with regards to sort of social media and everything like that, there's been a huge shift when there was the internet. There's been a huge shift like now with like social media, and like that shift seems to be getting more and more extreme. How has that sort of changes been affected? Like, what have you seen?
Okay, I feel like we're volleyball players, and that was the setup, and here comes the spike. This is why I wrote my book, because I started teaching in the 80s, and
don't believe you.
Yeah, true story. 1986 to be exact. And I started teaching, and there weren't the internet wasn't a thing.
Mm.
Even computers, like kids were handwriting their homework. Nobody was looking up definitions. We had dictionaries. Like, I mean, it was back in the day, me and the dinosaurs roaming around. But over time, and every year, I mean, you could ask any teacher, every year, you're like, what will be the annoying thing this year? And like, I remember the year fidget spinners came out, and I was like, somebody shoot me, because they were so annoying and distracting, and it became a problem. And and that was how many years ago they were popular. And by the time I left, the big distraction was vaping. And I remember saying to my colleagues, bring back the fidget spinners, because the thing that I thought was the worst and made me crazy a few years prior, I was like, no, now they have vaping devices and they're meeting up in the bathroom to vape with each other. And this is what, like, oh, this hurts my head, and I'm health conscious. I always talk to them about being health conscious. And this was just so far over the line. But the social media, what they digest in social media, that was why I wrote the book. I went from, they're teenagers, I get it, they can be distracted between hormones and peers and all the craziness, fine, I can work with that. But then it was like, just, I mean, gosh, I remember when MySpace was the big distraction, and then, it just went on from there to the point where, TikTok, Instagram, all of the scrolls and the feeds, I watched the attention span deteriorate. I watched their work ethic plummet, because it wasn't like they weren't trying to pay attention. They had lost the ability to pay attention, because everything was coming at them so fast, and so much information, and the comparison between their life and everybody else's highlights reel was killing them. They were just feeling terrible about themselves. It was not good. At which point I said one day at my desk, realizing fully that I wasn't cranking out thousands of physicists and chemists in my, like, that was not my job. I was going to inspire those who were going to do that, but the ones who were going to be poets and artists and accountants, somebody else was going to inspire them, right? So I sat at my desk and I said, all right, it's gotten to a point where I feel ineffective. I'm having a very hard time getting my point across, getting them to learn anything. And they feel frustrated because they're like the victim of their own short attention span. And the only thing that their attention span can handle is more social media. So, I saw the cycle and I was like, how do I intervene? And I went home. I said, what's missing? Like, what are the things that my students used to be able to do, they can't do now? If I really, really want to help them, what do I want them to know? And I just made a list, like on a little sticky note, like, oh, if they could know these things, this is important. It's the universal truths that were true 100 years ago, that'll be true 100 years from now, that they're lacking. And it was things like, what is excellence? Because it's come down to everybody gets a trophy. So, oh yeah, maybe that's not excellence, right? But they've grown up, like this generation of kids, they've grown up with that. Like from the time they were little, if you participated on a sport, everybody on the team got a trophy. Like nobody was the most valuable player. Nobody was the champion. It was, we don't keep score and everybody gets a trophy. And they have this unrealistic expectation that showing up is the same as being a champion. So, we talked about that. Things about like how your attitude affects your perception of things. So if you walk into my class and you go like, I hate science, guess what? You're probably going to have a really lousy day. I can work super hard and I can do, and I got to tell you, my class, like we did science. There was not a lot of like worksheets. And it was like, oh, right here on the front lab table, I've got a beaker, it's on fire, the flames are green, let's talk about this, so I was really trying to capture their attention, get them inspired, motivated, like interested in what I was doing. But the attitude they brought in with them was going to make or break their experience. And I would say to them, look, same job for me, like I'm still showing up, I'm still doing 5 live shows a day, and what you bring is what you're going to get out of it. And if you sit there with your arms crossed and I'm not going to do anything, well, it's going to be a really long hour of class for you, so things like that. And even like establishing their values. They don't sit and think about that. They just go with, this is the popular thought with other kids, and they don't sit down and think about their own. And they don't establish boundaries for themselves because now they're teenagers, they're more independent, maybe they're going out with their friends more, adults aren't around as much. And I had them really do a lot of self-assessment, grow their self-awareness, and ask themselves questions. I would always give them a little story. And then it really was like, and now you have a piece of paper and something to write with, and you're going to answer these questions because now I have you thinking about your boundaries, right? And so it'd be something like, what are you willing to do to get what you want? And so now nobody had ever asked them that before. And then the next question is, what aren't you willing to do to get what you want? Because I think all you need is 5 minutes of TV news, and you will see there are people whose boundaries are not in line with yours. They will do absolutely anything to get power and control and all the things that they want, but that might not be what you want to do. And if you know that about yourself, it's so important in your peer group, because now if they're doing something and you go, wait a minute, I'm not willing to do that, that's not going to get me what I want. And you can start drawing lines for yourself. But if you don't sit and think about it, they're often caught up in the wave of whatever the popular kids are doing, whatever the trend is. Oh, it's cool to go vape in the bathroom. And I'd be like, okay, so 40 years from now, when you're like carrying around an oxygen tank and like unable to do the things you want to do because you've started, inhaling things you shouldn't at the age of 14 or 15, like think about that, like, what do you want your life to look like? And so, yeah, so this book was, and so I did these lessons, and I said to myself, I'm going to try to make some change so that I feel more effective, so that they get some skills. I'm going to do this for 10 weeks, every Monday. And one of two things will happen. I will embarrass myself, fall on my face, and nobody will listen, and this will land like a ton of bricks. Or I will affect some change, reduce my stress, help them, and positive outcome. I didn't know which it was going to be because this is pretty uncharted territory. Everybody is kind of like, here's your curriculum, this is what you got to get through. And that's the teacher's job. You like hop on the hamster wheel in September, teach. And then at the end of the school year, you just sort of collapse in a heap and you try to recover yourself. So I said, well, I'm going to do this 10 to 15 minutes a day, every Monday, for every class, see what happens. In 1 week, I saw a change, little change. I had teachers come to me from their class, see me at lunchtime or at the end of the school day, and say things like, I don't know what you did in class, but they were all talking about your class in my class. which didn't make them happy, but made me a little happy, to be honest. And then the phys ed teacher comes and says, I don't know what you did, but they were talking about it in a locker room. I'm like, okay, like now you have my attention, right? Then on my way out of the building, or in my way, I don't know, I was in the main office for something, and the cafeteria, one of the cafeteria workers comes to me and she says, they were talking about what you did in class today at lunch. And I thought, here they are, they could talk about absolutely anything, and they're talking about what I mentioned in class. That's crazy. That was after 1 week. So I get to week 10 and I go, well, this is going to be the last Mindful Monday mini lesson. It seems like you guys are, and you don't know, right? You don't know who's getting what out of it, because a lot of times teenagers aren't going to blab about a lot of things. I had some who'd stay after class and talk to me. But, a lot of them were kind of quiet. And one of the quietest kids I had was like, what? What do you mean? We're not going to keep doing this on Monday? And I go, well, do you want to? They were like, yeah, we do. And I'm thinking, so my Monday morning classes are asking me to do something, right? So usually that's like, I don't want to say zombie apocalypse because that's a little harsh, but usually they're still in recovery from their staying up all night weekend. So I kept on going to the end of the year. And now I had started this in the winter time. I had just reached a point where I was like, I'm seeing no progress or growth. I got to change something. And the following year I said, oh, I'm going to start this right at the beginning of the year, get my expectations established, and like kick this right in after, a week or 10 days. Changed the entire school year. They were, and often the previous grade teachers will say, oh, this is the worst group we have ever had. And I sort of take that with a grain of salt, because I'm like, that might not be true, But the previous grade this year, when they said this is the worst class, they were like spot on. They were so challenging. They had no self-control, all impulse, couldn't listen to a direction, had to interrupt. They just literally, I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are bananas. I did this with them. I had one of the best years ever. And other people would say to me, oh, I'm having such a problem with a certain student. And I'd say, oh, I don't have that problem. They're not disrespectful to me. They're not giving me a hard time. They're not interrupting. They're fine. Like they're, like, I wish I could help you. But, and then I'd have a talk with the student and say, well, one of the teachers, I won't say who, one of the teachers was describing to me that she's pretty happy to see the back of you leaving her room every day, because you are a distraction and you're not a handful in her class, you are 2 handfuls. So maybe you want to just think about, what attitude you bring into class. And sure enough, she came to me and said, I don't know what happened. I don't know what you said. I was like, well, I just let him think about his behavior. I didn't say stop doing it. I just said, there are people who are happy to see you go. So you might want to do a self-evaluation. And sure enough, he did. And, I don't think he turned into a stellar student, but I think he stopped breaking her chops in class.
Yeah, no, because like this is a thing. A number of things come to mind with like what you're saying. Because look, we live in a world where, okay, you know the saying paralysis by analysis, right?
Yes.
Okay, there is another thing which is very prevalent in this world today. It is like we are so overly stimulated, and that goes from kids to adults today. Like boomers, whatever generation, what came before us and everything like this, there is like a paralysis by overstimulation, which, okay, when it comes to concentration, thinking, and everything like this, it's like, no, because it's all coming in like a constant sort of bombardment, shelling, you could say. So you go, right, what? Like, okay, you go, this kid's not focused. This kid can't do this. This kid can't do that. But no, there is also such a hunger like in society today to like, okay, I've got this coming on. I want to make a choice. I want to make a decision. If someone can give me the tools to do that, to think concisely about this, that, the other, because the world is so much more of a smaller place, but it's so much more of a bigger place as well. And those sort of choices, those sort of informed choices, if you can give someone a stopgap, be that a child, be that someone in their 20s, middle age, like older and beyond, then you start to see real growth coming on, you know?
Well, and that's the thing is like, you have that power in your hands. Everybody does, right? But you're right. There's so much overstimulation. And I'll tell you, I don't know how many, I would sit through parent meetings and I'd say, well, there'd be a whole team of teachers. Your child is failing 4 out of 6 subjects, right? Like they're passing physical education and they're passing, art or their elective essentially. And I'd say, what is stopping them from doing their homework? Well, they're on 3 hockey teams. Okay. Do you think that might be affecting the amount of time that they have for schoolwork? Or like they might be so exhausted they don't have the like bandwidth left to try to pay attention. Oh, I can't take him off a team, he'll be mad. Okay, like but I'm like, you're like parent, right? Like stop and say, wait a minute, what do I want? And she had clearly, like right in that moment, she told me her values. Her values were, I never want my child to be angry at me, right? That's something I can't deal with, as opposed to sometimes my best parenting leaves my child being a little ticked off, which I mean, I think that's true. Any parent will tell you that, there are times when your kids don't particularly like you, but you got to hold the line because it's in their best interest, even though they don't see it.
That's
You have to, right? Like you have to, because they want what they want and it's not always good for them.
Yeah, but it goes both ways. Like you might not like your kids at times, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it's not so much cut and dry. And when you say about, like parents are like going, oh, they're on 3 hockey teams and they're like doing this and they've got every activity under the sun. But their bandwidth is being chewed up left, right, and center. Sometimes it's just like, you know what? If they're in this class, that class, and every other class, like activity, like that means I don't have to do as much as being a parent. But
absolutely right. There's also, and I will say this, I mean, there, I'm not going to ask you your age, but if you're, in my decade, when I was a kid, I played in my yard. I climbed trees. I entertained myself. We got a new refrigerator. I mean, we could play in that box as a clubhouse for weeks until it finally collapsed under, all of the use that it got. Like, but now it's always, and I do think it's the social media, the internet, like what's next, what's new, I got this iPhone, now I need that iPhone, oh, the new device is coming out, oh, the upgraded, and there's a lot of keeping up, which kids want. And if parents can afford it, sometimes it's a lot easier to go, yeah, here's another device. You're off on your own. But there's also a fear in parents. If I don't fill their time, they'll get involved in shenanigans that they shouldn't be getting involved in. And there's a lot, and we all know there's a lot more now than there was then. Not that, I mean, my generation, sure, kids were sneaking off and smoking, and sure, there were kids, trying substances when I got to high school and things like that. But I don't think it was as accessible, and I don't think it was as prevalent and easy to attain as it is now. And parents are like, if I just have my kid in every sport available, they'll never do drugs, right? Or which, I mean,
No.
get me started to the, the
Give a kid
whole
a
peeing in a
time.
cup,
Yeah.
peeing in a cup culture of professional sports. But, there's this misconception that if you fill their time, then they'll never get themselves into trouble, as opposed to if you had a closer family connection and shared your values. Like that to me is so important. And that's what this book does, because I get it. You got 2-income households, you got to get the kids out to school, you got to get dinner on the table, you got to make sure people are doing their homework, you've got your own job, your own bandwidth, you're exhausted, all of that is happening. And here it's like there's literally 30 conversation starters for you to have with your child at a dinner table, like real easy. Share your experiences. And even, I think about that as parents, the things you don't tell your kid, maybe you come home from work and you're in a really bad mood one day. And rather than saying something like, I value being competent at my job, and I am surrounded by people whose work I have to keep checking on because they're not competent in theirs. It's frustrating. I get in a bad mood. That's why I'm this way. Rather than say that, they're just short and angry and, a little maybe snippy with their kids. Or, I was really hoping to get a promotion and it didn't happen. And so I'm super disappointed. And rather than being angry when you get home, like, you know what, this was the thing. I think I'm really good at my job. I was looking to go to the next level. I know I'm ready. It didn't happen for me. Disappointment happens. I'm going to feel this feeling, but I'm not going to take it out on you. And I think like having those really simple conversations, it's the simple conversation, but it's not easy. And I don't, people don't want to be vulnerable even in front of their own kids.
Well, but I understand that. I totally get that. But it's one of those things. If you're having a conversation like that with your kid, like going, yeah, I didn't get this promotion because and they get the next question is, why didn't you get that promotion? You know what? Maybe it was a case of I did everything I could possibly do, and yes, I was the best person. But yeah, those SOBs just didn't want to put me forward. Or it's a case of, yeah, no, there was this person who was better. Now that kind of sort of diffuses, going back to the sort of everyone gets our participation trophy, that sort of dissolves some of that distortion of what the world is, gives it a little bit of reality. Because look, when you come out of school, the real world is the real world, jackboots and all, and it doesn't really give two fucks.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. Like your boss does not care how you feel today, still wants you to do your job, right? And they don't, they're not always ready for that. And I keep referring to this book because it's making me think about it, but I have a whole chapter on grudge holding, right? Because now, okay, I didn't get that job. Does that mean that tomorrow I'm going to stink at what I do? or I didn't get that promotion, right? So maybe I'm not going to work as hard tomorrow. Maybe I'm going to slack. Or am I going to say, okay, it didn't happen and life's not fair, right? That's a big lesson that kids need to learn. It's not always fair. Sometimes, their nephew got that job, right? Or whatever, right? Their neighbor. It doesn't matter. Life's not fair. And if you're going to sit around on your hands waiting for life to get fair, yeah, might not be working towards, improving yourself, improving your circumstances. But holding grudges, that's something I talk about in the book. Like, how long do you want to hold that? And what's the benefit of it? Right? Oh, now I'm right. Like, some people love to be right. I get it. You like to be right more than you like to be wrong, but right. But every time, I say that when I get annoyed, I go, I think it's this way, but the opposite is also true because that other person thinks it's their way. So let it go and stop, don't carry that around. I like to call it the gift of a short attention span, because I just am not going to hold on to that for a real long time. It might irk me for a minute. But I will almost always say, I'm sure there's a reason for this, and maybe there's something better waiting for me. And if there isn't, then that's okay, because whoever got what I was hoping for, surely they earned it, or they deserve it, or they're going to do something great with it. And, I'll just keep on keeping on, like, look for the next opportunity.
I really wish there was a section in that chapter. It's like, no, it's like, you're wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, and but that's the thing. And even like in the book, there are some questions in there that, like, what does make you angry? What does annoy you? One of my big questions that kids, I could see that they'd be writing at their desks. I'd never look over their shoulder. I never collected anything. I told them, this is like your business, is not mine. It's just like things you never thought about. And the beauty of it was I gave them the time to think about it. It wasn't like, well, here's our question for the day. We're gonna, I want you to ask yourself, what are your boundaries? And then like move on with the science lesson. They, like, that made no sense. That's the whole problem, is they've got too much. I think of it as like a funnel, right? You can put more things in the funnel, but it's still only going in a little bit, right? And I just tried to give them the time to like sit in their own thoughts, because they are overscheduled and overstimulated. And I mean, I had really surprising reactions. I had some kids who, I mean, they were so quiet. I couldn't pry 2 words out of them with a pair of pliers. I'd be like, come on, help me out here. And they'd come in, they'd look at the board. Oh, it's Mindful Monday. Oh, I love this. Oh, well, that's something. Yeah, like, that's great. And I mean, I had some kids who had some tough home situations, and they would stop and have conversations with me like, I get it. My life doesn't have to be a mirror of what I'm living right now. That's right. You can choose your thoughts. You can choose your attitude, right? You can choose how much effort you put into things. You can decide to put down your grudges and stop being angry, and, see what happens next. And they were changing their lives as best they could in their current situation. It wasn't like they were going to, move out of their house. Not an option, but they began to recognize some things for what they were. Some of them had really tough parents. They were either absent or angry. And if that was your 2 choice, like, I'd rather they not be here than they be here, and we're all, getting the wrath of that. But they'd start to see, like, oh, this isn't my future. Yeah, that's right. You get to create it. It's all you. And that was very rewarding for me, because they they had much deeper thoughts than I expected. And they shared enough, what they were comfortable with. Some of them, not all of them, but they shared enough that I could see like, oh, okay, good. You're thinking about this. You're on the road here. And honestly, when I told the class, oh, I am turning these into a book. I didn't know what they were going to say. They were like, it's going to be like a compilation of Mindful Mondays. This is great. These are great. Like, I was kind of like, wow, now, okay. And I said to them, now that I've said it out loud and I've made myself accountable to a lot of people, right? Like, I got to do this. This is, I was thinking about it for a while, but now that I really, dug down and said, yeah, I can do this, and I shared with them along the way. Oh, there are times when this goes great. And there are times when I want to take a sledgehammer to my laptop and throw it out the window. And I just, oh, I get so mad, and they were like, really? I was like, yeah, because the things that are worth it aren't always easy, and that was a good lesson too. Because, I would tell them that it's, if everything comes super easy, I'm not learning anything.
Yeah.
So, the struggle, that's why it's called the struggle, right? There's something good at the other end. It's not
Yeah,
just a
because
struggle for the struggle's sake.
absolutely. Because like this is the thing, telling them, yes, I'm going to do a book. That's the goal. I'm going to do this book. And if you're like, yeah, 6 months later, going, oh, yep, here's the book. And you didn't like go, right. Yeah, no, this book has sometimes been a pain in my backside. Like what is driving me crazy, blah, blah, blah. And you are expressing the journey because you like everyone sees the success, everyone sees the finished article, but
Right.
you like even if someone's telling the story of the journey, it's like it's kind of lost on them. It's like yes, it's if you ask a kid to read Lord of the Rings or like the Odyssey or anything like that, it's like
Yeah.
most times it's like, okay, why didn't the eagle just pick them up and take them to the like volcano and that was it?
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
The hero's journey is lost on them.
mm,
But and I felt like that was, that was one of my like, I know I have more ahead of me, but it's sort of like my hero's journey, right? Like, oh, this needs to be a book. Oh God, I really just don't want to write this book. I think this is going to be super, super hard. And then like more and more weeks would go by and I could see the difference it was making and I could see the change in them. And I was like, yeah, I have to answer the call. I got to write the book. It took me a lot. It took me a lot of time because one, not an English teacher. So yeah, subject verb agreement, somebody help me. And then you write this, you write this first draft, which is, I wish I still had it. I'm sure I don't. You think I did it. It's great. And you read it and you're like, this is awful. Like the sentence structure and it's terrible. I edited every word. I don't think one single sentence went untouched because it was like, yeah, okay, I got my ideas. And it sounded like I was speaking. And I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, that's terrible. This is not a book. And then I had to, sit back and go, all right, you've come this far. You can do this one paragraph at a time, one sentence at a time, and I learned how to edit. That was not easy for a science teacher. I'm used to scientific writing, a lab report, like what was the purpose and what were your conclusions and, some scientific principles in there and boom, bing, bang, boom, I'm done. But yeah, this was a whole different animal. And it's been so rewarding to have done. But what's really nice is when I know some of my colleagues are now using it. Former colleagues are using it. I've been teaching it through. There's a local organization for teenagers who have dropped out of high school, And especially during this pandemic, their numbers have been unprecedented because there are kids who need to show up and have somebody else impose some discipline on them because they don't have that. And they couldn't do the remote classroom. They could not hold themselves accountable. And a lot of them were failing, and they just dropped out of high school, realizing soon after this was a bad idea, And I would start out teaching these groups and say, well, okay, one bad choice does not define the rest of your life. We're literally going to talk about your choices now, because the world is yours, but you have to choose what you want, right? Because if you want a minimum wage paying job without a high school diploma, then don't finish this program. Like, don't show up tomorrow, and if you want better than that, then I'll see you tomorrow, and a lot of them made it through the program. Some of them didn't. And, but at least I had the opportunity to have them do some self-evaluation, look at their choices. And they weren't ready. I guess they weren't ready for their hero's journey, really, because it was like, yes, this is going to be hard. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to show up. You're going to have to take tests. You're going to have to do this work to get what you want, which is a better place in your career than you currently have, right? A lot of them were like sitting home wondering what to do with themselves. And nobody wants to hire an 18-year-old with no high school diploma for anything that requires any responsibility. Because it's like, well, if you didn't have the wherewithal to finish that, how could I trust you with anything in my business? That's not happening. So yeah, I mean, a lot of them stuck it out. It was great. They took their tests, they got their diplomas, and I was like, how does that feel? They were like, it was really hard. I go, do you want to quit sometimes? Yeah. Did you want to not show up? Yeah. We talked about that. And what'd you do? I got in the shower, I got dressed, I showed up, I came, I, did my good. You know what? Good. Because sometimes life is like that. And you just have to persevere. And that was, again, one of the skills they were losing because of this instant feed, instant gratification. And they, and this was, hey, I'd say to them, do you see these people who are here to help you? They're going to tutor you. They're going to teach you all the things you're going to need to know. Like they have your back. Like, you are not going to go anywhere else in the world and find a group of people who want you to do so well that you pass all these tests and get what you want. Like, that doesn't exist. Like, you go out in the world and other people aren't going to want things for you. You've got to want them for yourself. And that was a big learning thing for them, because a lot of them didn't have supportive families, really.
There's two things which always fascinates me. Like, one thing predominantly, what fascinates me, which they never teach in schools. One, financial education. I'm not talking about like being like some Bill Gates or like some like titan of industry, just like that basic financial education to like go, this is how, like in America, balance a checkbook. This is how you can like budget, get that down. Because with a good financial education, you can literally move mountains if you play it correctly. The other thing which always comes to mind, like, is the secondary one, is just sort of organization skills and time management. Because if you put those two pillars into place, and then that third pillar of their own sort of drive and ambition, that is a pretty damn good foundation right there for them to, like, yes, to start excelling either academically or in other aspects of their lives, to like go beyond their family or what they perceive as what limitations they have today, because it's the beginning of their hero's journey. Who knows where that might take them if they can have that financial education, like basically that time management and like scheduling, like organization skills, and just like, yeah, them and their own drive. Who knows?
That's right. And, it's funny because when you said financial education, I always think of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Great. What a great book,
Yeah.
right? What a great book for kids to start understanding, how money works, right? You're not rich because you have the boat. The boat is sucking your money. You have to be extremely rich to have the boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they have these misconceptions or like that. And that was one of the things that I taught in this program for, it's called Youth Corps, the kids who have dropped out of high school. And it was like, this is how to set a goal. This is how to like break down that goal. And this is what can I do today? Boom. Okay. What's the next logical step? What can I do tomorrow? How to manage your time. But it was really about what do you want and why do you want it? Which is what the book is about. What do you want? Why do you want it? Because once you know why, you will find out how you're going to get it. And if you're like, I want it because all my friends have it. Yeah, that's why, that's like the failed New Year's resolution, right? I mean, we're talking in January here. How many people have already abandoned their New Year's resolution? It's January 6th, I think. And,
Yes.
they were like, oh yeah, I decided I need to get more organized because that's what is a common one, or I'm gonna get in shape and lose that weight this year. And then they don't know why, like why. And then they fail because they intrinsically have not figured out what is so valuable to them that they must make this change. And that was really my focus, like, what do you want? You're going to high school and you're, how does this, and I'd call it like the 4-year career. Okay. You can be here for 4 years. That's like a short career. It's not a lot of time. Where do you want to be when you get out of here? How farther along do you want to be? What more do you want to know? What do you want to accomplish? Because now is a great time for you. Once you go to college and start working full time, it's not always as easy to have the time they have now. I also had kids who, again, their parents overscheduling them on sports, and they would complain about going to practice. And, they'd sit and commiserate. Oh, it's going to be terrible today. And, oh, he's going to make us do sprints or, whatever, and they didn't want to go. And I heard some lacrosse players who were complaining about lacrosse practice. And I said, I listened to them. I said, I played field hockey for 7 years. I loved going to practice. I loved the games. I loved the uniform day when you got your uniform. There was nothing I didn't love. I loved the feel of carrying my field hockey stick. Strapping on those cleats, getting out on the field. I loved it. And if you don't love it, then check your values and invest your time in a way that is valuable to you. Because if what this does is cause you to invest your time in complaining and commiserating and doing a half-hearted attempt when you get there, this might not be your thing. And that's okay. And a lot of them were doing it because a parent was signing them up or their older sibling had done it. And so they, the parent, a lot of times the parent says, well, your older brother did it. So if it was good for him, it was good for you, and they get him in there to keep him busy. You're right. Keep him occupied. But, I'm like, what if you're really dying to learn to play the violin? You could be a symphony level violinist if you took the same hours you're playing a sport and put it into practicing an instrument or creating, something else that you value. And again, until you clarify it, they're doing what their friends are doing. They're doing what their parents tell them to do. And they're not always investing their best effort because there's just so much time in a day.
Yeah.
If you're going to take all my energy and my time to do this thing that you think is important to you, that I have maybe not expressed a great desire for, you might want to reevaluate,
I often find if a child can't find joy or gratitude in an activity they're doing, that activity is not worth doing.
That's right. And that's one of my chapters. Oh, I do a whole chapter on that. And I have to tell you, I know my audience. This is a book for teenagers. It's a great classroom resource for conversations. It's an amazing parent resource for conversation starters. But I do this whole chapter about, have you ever been in the car and your parents are taking you somewhere, right? So these kids don't have their driver's license yet. Your parents are driving you somewhere, and the whole way they are like, all right, you're going to their house, and they're just complaining the whole way, right? And we've all done it. We're tired and we don't feel like making the drive to your friend's house and dropping you off, because this means in a few hours I got to go pick you up, and this is a pain in the neck, and blah, blah, on and on. I said, have you ever been in this situation? All the kids are like, oh yeah, yeah. They have to take me to practice, or they're sitting at, my favorite, they're sitting at the game for the sport that they signed their kid up for, who wasn't really dying to play the sport. And then they're complaining. I go, okay, well, did you ever think that they would like some appreciation? Like, they're giving you a gift. They're giving you their time and their energy and their effort, their gasoline, right? They go food shopping. They fill the refrigerator. Do you help them unload the groceries? Do you thank them? Like, don't just say thank you. Just be specific. Thank you. I appreciate that you drove me to my friend's house, because I know you could be doing other things and that you have a lot of things to do, but I really appreciate you taking this time. Right? Because maybe then a parent is not going to be as annoyed, because one, their child now recognizes and appreciates and is thankful for what's happening, as opposed to take, drive me here, drive me there, get me this, get me that. And that was one of their homework assignments. Go home, thank somebody in your household for something. Be specific, not just thanks for dinner, but thanks for making this dinner. I really enjoyed it. Or thank you for getting my favorite topping on the pizza, or what I said. But be specific, because saying thank you, they're not going to know what you're talking about, especially if it isn't a habit. And for many of them, it wasn't a habit. It was just an assumed, like, well, of course my parents are going to fill the refrigerator. Of course they're going to, make dinner. Of course they're going to drive me everywhere I need to go. Yeah, okay, I get it. They're your parents. I get it. But a little love and appreciation goes a long way in helping them do that with a little more happiness, maybe a little help their attitude, right?
I hear you. But this is where I have to push back slightly on that, because look, here's the thing. Now, that value you just mentioned there, like, that's something you are helping installing into those kids. Now, I would simply say this: if parents wanted to get that sort of feedback, or like, like to have their kids have that appreciation, they need to be installing that value, that sort of belief system into their kids, rather than sort of bitch and complain, rather than just doing that side of things, which requires work on the parent front to do that. Yes, make sure you say please. Make sure you say thank you.
Say thank
Like,
you.
like remember manners, like being polite, like showing you're grateful costs nothing, but it can get you everything. It's like all of that sort of teachings, that values, those sort of like little things which make a world of difference to everyone's day, everyone's life. Like you could be grumpy as like can be, like a bear on your back, and someone goes, "Ah, oh, thank you, thank you for doing this for me," or "Thank you for doing that to," like, or just like, "Oh, hello," and just being polite. That bear all of a sudden melts away, and yeah, your steps get lighter. So I've got to say, sometimes with that, parents got to get involved. Parents got to.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you, but nowadays you can talk to any teacher, I think, anywhere, and they're going to tell you those kids, many of them arrive in class very entitled. They think they're entitled to everything and anything, that, I work for them, and that, yeah, like that's the attitude. That's the attitude. They deserve it all and they shouldn't have to work for it. I've had parents tell me, I never want my child to be frustrated in your class. Like, really? Because I'm teaching physics. So I cannot guarantee that they might not get a little,
Yeah.
little frustrated with some of this content, and not all parents, but a lot of them, they're like, but what if my kid gets stressed out and cries about homework? Okay, well, then see why they're upset and why they don't understand, and like tell them to ask for help. Oh, I tell you, these conversations, tell your child to ask for help. He'd be mortified if he had to come to you and ask for help. Really?
But
I
like that.
Okay, is he? And then I'd say, do you have a vast knowledge of physics? And they'd say, no. Do you have a half vast knowledge of physics? Like, no. Okay, well then, hello. Like, that's literally what they pay me for. That's what I show up to do every day. That's literally my job. Every time a kid asks me a question, every time in my class, a student would ask a question, I'd go, thank you for that question. I would answer it and I would say, did my answer, was that like sufficient? Did that clarify? And did I give you an answer that you were looking for? If not, I will explain it differently, but I want to make sure I answered what you were asking. And they were like, oh, wow, she appreciates me asking. And she's making sure that at the end, I was, sufficiently happy with that interaction. And yeah, I didn't, but I don't know, like not those lines of communication aren't open all the time everywhere. You've had a long day. You're like, I've done enough at work that I don't want to answer any more questions and do things. I get that, but you're right. This has to start when they're 2, oh, you want a cookie? What do you say? Please, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think those are the kids that, when they come to your house, my kids are in their 30s now, but when they come to your house, they're such a pleasure to have, because somebody has instilled some manners in them. And then there, every now and again, the kid who hasn't really had that kind of guidance, and you're kind of like, all right, well, oh, you want so and so over? Yeah, aces, that's great. Oh, you want that kid over? Yeah, I'm not feeling that today.
It's like, I've only just
uh,
paid the insurance for the last time they visited. No.
no, yeah, exactly. I know, right? I'm still trying to recover from that. Yeah.
Mm.
But no, but that's the thing, is the kids don't, even if they have manners, and some of them have great manners, but they don't sit and they don't think about it. Somebody gives me something, I say thank you. I want something, I say please, but they don't really connect to that energy
Mm.
of appreciation for getting that. because there's a way, like somebody gives you something like, oh, thanks, right? Or thank you. This is going to be so helpful. I'm really appreciative, right? Like those are two different responses. And it's like, if you can make, it's the tiniest shift, but all of a sudden you go like, wow, this is going to make my life so much easier. You have no idea. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much. Somebody feels that much better for giving it to you. If you're like, oh, thanks, and you put it to the side, they're like, what's the likelihood I'm going to be going out of my way for this person? Not so good.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, this is the thing. Now, you work with some programs, you've done the book, but where do you see the direction of this going? Because hey, it's you've had the hero's journey of 25 years of like coming to this epiphanal moment of time. You've like when, oh, wait a second. What about this? You've formulated those lessons you've picked up from your sort of awakening. And now it's a case of it's a book, you're doing the programs, but it seems like you want to do much more.
I do. I do. Well, I have the book, right? I'll hold it up. So if anybody wants to see what it looks like this. This is the like teenage version, right? It has like lines and places to write inside the book and questions and all that stuff. It's an ebook, despite my better judgment. People were like, no, you gotta have the ebook. Fine, whatever. Now what I've gone and done is I made a teacher's edition. So same exact chapters. You can read this to your class and they can answer those questions, and you can grow so much self-awareness. And so like, I can't even, my kids were, the students were so much more cooperative. They were nicer to each other. They were more productive. They were better focused. And I didn't have like outlandish discipline issues. I had, interrupting and, little things. It was like it stopped because all of a sudden they could focus. It was like I gave them the gift, right? So now the teacher's edition is all those lessons, plus a way to engage your whole class without anybody giving personal information. So for example, if we're talking about excellence, I would draw a line down the middle of the board and I wrote never on one side and always on the other. Gave every kid 2 little Post-it sticky notes. What is something, I want you to think of somebody excellent, doesn't matter who it is, celebrity, family member, neighbor, doesn't matter. What's something they never do? What's something they always do? Stick it on the board. Don't write your name, completely anonymous. And I would just go up there and go, oh, they never complain, because they know that complaining is a waste of energy. It's not going to get them what they want. Oh, they always listen, right? Now I go, oh, whoever this is, they value being heard, right? And yeah, they don't interrupt. They let somebody speak and they really give somebody their full and undivided attention. And by the time you're done, you go like, well, which of these cost money? Nothing. They did not put anything on there that costs money. They all put character traits. And now suddenly we're having a whole conversation about character. And then all of a sudden you see them improve their character because it's like, oh, okay. Maybe that's something that I do that I shouldn't, or something I would like to start doing, right? And it was just this level of self-awareness. So I made all 30 chapters, plus every chapter has an additional like whole class. You can do it with the whole group. And it transformed my students. It transformed my classroom. It empowered my teaching. I was feeling so frustrated because I would say it and repeat it and repeat it. And it was like, I felt like I was talking to the wall because they just couldn't. And it wasn't like they weren't intelligent. It was like they didn't have the attention span for me to get through the whole idea. It was gone. And by the end of the year, I was like, wow, they are ready to move on now. I am ready to release them into the wild. I have done my job. They were just so much better. And I don't think it's that parents don't want to have these conversations. But with teenagers, how was your day? Fine. What'd you do at school? Nothing, you know, and everybody's schedules, whoever's at the dinner table. And it's easier for not to argue about them being on their phone than it is to say no phones at the table and deal with the aftermath of that. And it's just about you make a small change, but it has such tremendous impact. It starts at home, but I feel like even at home, the time is limited. Parents are stretched thin. They have a lot to do. It seems, we get all these convenience devices. Like I remember people thinking like the microwave is going to save time. Like, no, it's not, because now I'm expected to cook more things and like learn to do these things. And I'm like, you think every gadget's going to save you time. The reality is you still got to use the gadget, right? But when you invest that time, 15 minutes, one dinner conversation, 15 minutes of class time. I mean, my favorite one was conversations in the car. When my kids were learning to drive, they couldn't use their cell phone, right? I mean, if I'm driving, they could be on their cell phone, and I have, it was bad. My son and daughter, they would sit in the back seat and they would text each other so that my husband and I would not hear what they were saying back and forth to each other. I was like, you're obnoxious. I know what you're doing. Stop it, but when they were learning to drive, right, there's no cell phone. And it was like this forced opportunity because of course I was watching the road too, right? Because they're new at this and I like my car. So
audience.
there was just like this opportunity that I knew the minute they had their license, they were going to be off on their own. And that time, that 6-month span of time, that 1 year of time, was like this fleeting thing that I was like, yeah, I can invest in these conversations now. And it won't be weird later because we've had these conversations. Now it was just finding opportunities to have them again, have that at dinner, have that when you're both, flopping on the couch trying to relax, like, and I think parents you got to open up about your day too, because they don't know why you're stressed out at work unless you say, this is the thing that's making me crazy. I know sometimes I come home and I'm in a bad mood, but I feel like as soon as you start saying it's this outside thing, it has nothing to do with you guys. I'm sorry, I'm home in a bad mood. As soon as you say it, it's like it takes away its power. But instead, they just stay on the hamster wheel and they keep doing. And I'm like, let your kids in on the fact that life is not a bowl of cherries for you, and every day is not easy, because that's what's real. And so when they have a hard day at school, yeah, I know what you mean. Not every day is going to be easy. That's what it's like at work for me. Some days go great and some days not so much, but so yeah, it definitely starts with parents.
Absolutely.
But I think it goes a long way in the classroom to get them to appreciate you, because a lot of times they don't. They just see you as like the obstacle. Like, if I can just get through these 8 classes today or 7 classes today, whatever they have, right? If I can get through this, if I can get through over these hurdles, then I get to go play video games or do what I want to do. And rather than see you as the obstacle, when you share your appreciation for them, thank you for asking me that question. Oh, I'm really happy that you want to know more about that. And you go on, all of a sudden they feel like, oh, maybe I'm not trying to be an obstacle, right? I'm just trying to do what I'm supposed to be doing, and you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing, which they'd rather not a lot of the time.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm
Yeah.
curious to say, I am curious. Like, this will be my last question, but yes, over the like, what would be three things you would like to achieve over the next period of time, uh, on your journey?
Um, the next thing the like number one thing that I really have on my list, and it's the struggle has been the pandemic, and I get that, is I'd like to get into buildings, into school buildings, and do professional development for teachers. Because when I did this, I was very concerned about falling on my own face and embarrassing myself.
Mm.
And any teacher does not want to be standing in front of their room feeling embarrassed, right? That's right. The whole like nightmare of, oh no, I'm in front of my class and I'm in my underwear, whatever. So I feel like professional development, like that's the next piece, because I have teachers who are using it and they're like, yeah, wow, this really is making a difference. And I was getting to the point where it was struggling. I was struggling to go to work. I'm like, they're making me crazy. I leave every day with neck tension and a headache. And it made the day better. It made them better. They were thanking me. And when they left, uh, I was, I don't want to say happy to see them go, but I was happy that they were ready to go. So I feel like teacher development or professional development, that's a big step for me. I want to branch out to more organizations and teach these lessons. And I also, along with it, have my own piece of like goal setting, which is not, I mean, there's a million books on goal setting. So I was like, I don't feel like I need to write a book about it, but goal setting and like the value in it and how to manage the goal, how to create the goal, break it down. And, like the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
Indeed.
So those are the next steps for me. And I'm reaching out and everybody's like, oh, the next wave of the new variant. So it's like, but yeah, so that's the next piece of it for me. I have a second book in the works. The rough draft, which I fully understand is complete rubbish, and I will revamp every sentence. That's okay. Now I know, like, I get it. Now that I've done it, it's like, I get it. It's just hard. And you just have to, if you really want it, you have to just show up, and some days it will be hard. Um, but yeah, those are my goals for now.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. And I've got to say, like, yeah, it's been a delight speaking to you today. Like some of your insights and I think are absolutely spot on. I think more discussions and conversations need to be had along these lines because look, we live in a busy and busier world today where, okay, I would say many of our young people who are coming through are being ill equipped for that world. And I think many adults who are in the world are forgetting the sort of lessons they've learned to help them like navigate this world. And basically bringing those sort of lessons to the forefront will be a great help to the next generation after that, and the current generations who are in the thick of it right now. Because we all lived through a 2 year period where everything just went away, like in a blink of an eye. And let's just say there were people which crumbled, there were people which sat down, very few stood and rose to the occasion. And we need more people to be able to do that, have that sort of mental practice, have that sort of spirit, that drive to do that. And I think it starts in schools. And yeah, it can be lost, but it can be won back as an adult as well, you know?
And and it's funny because you say, yes, we can win this back in schools.
Mhm.
And every country saw remote learning didn't work. It
Oh,
didn't work.
oh,
They lost so much. Their social skills were hanging by a thread because they're used to they're not even used to speaking face to face. They text each other, and it was frustrating. But man, without putting them together and causing them to interact and having adult conversations with them and doing those things, so much was lost. I mean, how many kids were depressed?
mhm.
How many kids were just not learning? They lost, I mean, the academics, okay, you lost some academics, but you lost so many interpersonal skills that they aren't going to learn. You can't learn it at home. You can't learn, how do I deal with 25 people in a family of 4 or 5,
No,
right? And you already know the players. Like, you don't need a program. I know all the players in my family. I know their habits and I know what they're like. But if every class I have to learn to deal with different personalities, I can't change the landscape. I have to change myself and build my skills so that I stand out in the landscape for myself. Right?
absolutely. And without that, you also, like, without those skills, you quite often fail. I don't know people who don't have these skills who succeed, you know?
Right. And that's why they were, like I said, in the very beginning, they were timeless. 1,000 years ago, they were important. 100 years ago, they were important. 100 years from now, they'll be important. The people who are successful now and down the road, they're going to be the ones who know their boundaries, know their values, know why they're doing things, know what they want, right? Don't hold grudges. Um, Show gratitude and appreciation, are consistently showing up, all of those things, 30 topics, each addressed in there. Yeah, it took me a long time, a lot of reading and a lot of really ferreting out, what I wanted. And it builds, from the very basic to the, much deeper topics come later. But it's a build, just like life. It's a build. You got to walk before you run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, can you tell the lovely people out there how they can reach you, how they can find you out on the big wide world web?
Yes. So my book, The Power of Choice, A Teen's Guide to Finding Personal Success, you can find that and the teacher's edition and the ebook and the ebook's companion journal. You can find all of that on Amazon, because I am a big believer in the path of least resistance. Writing it was hard enough. I wasn't going to make it challenging to find. And if you are an organization or you work with an organization and you want bulk copies, we don't have to send Jeff Bezos to space again on your money. I do bulk orders through a printer so that they are more cost effective for organizations. And my website is ClaudeBLarsonLLC.com. So that's CLAUDE, B as in boy, LARSON LLC.com. You can reach out to me there. There's a contact me form. There's also 3 versions of the book right there on the landing page. So I'd love to hear from your audience. They can contact me with questions too. So
Superb. What I'll also do, I'll put all of the information in the show notes, in the description. So yes, you can reach out to Claude, and yes, get in contact with her, and yes, order a boatload of her books. And yeah, we can all work on making this world a little bit of a better place.
a little bit,
Okay.
and especially it's one of those, like it's for teenagers. If your teenager is a better person, your family dynamic has got to improve, because honestly, raising teenagers, I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore, because mine are, one of them has his own children, and sometimes they act, I go, oh yeah, I
Just
remember
watch it from the
this.
sidelines and just
Exactly. And it's so great, because I'm like, oh, I'm not in the fray of this. I don't have to. And they got it. Like, they got it. They know their values, they know their boundaries, they know their values. They are on it. They don't just lay down the law. They like explain, and this is what we believe in this house. And so that's why that's the way it is. And it's very entertaining to watch.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you, milady, for coming on today. You are
Thank you so much.
and I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors, sticking with us to the very end. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world, and then some. Have a great day, guys. Yeah. Peace.
Bye.
And we are